All right, welcome to my first ever devlog, making a game with vanilla JS, web components, pure CSS. So to show off the gameplay, we have drag and drop. You can see that they have their own idle animations they can cycle through. To dig into the first index, 8.html, we have like our main script. We have all of our web components we're loading in. Some of the web components are dynamically added because there is saved content to the local storage. The character actor web component, which is the little Chao we have here, is the most complicated web component. I'd say the most important parts to explain here are the routines. Each routine has a set duration. Specifically looking at the transform routine. During the transform routine, we decrease sleep, hunger, and energy by steps. And then when it's finished doing that, it grabs its next passive routine. Now, we have many other routines like its sit routine, eat, sleep, cry, if it's hungry, like this little guy right here. To peek into that next passive routine, it collects all those routines that I put together, minus, let's say, the egg routine, because that only happens on birth, and then assigns it a value depending on the current sleep, hunger, and energy stats. Inside the character actor, we have our drop zone web component as a child that triggers, that senses when an element is over on top and drops. I got a good tutorial for the sprite animations from Drew Conley. I took it one step further to kind of have more control as far as flipping through different states. The animation for the sprite sheets is really simple. It just takes from to the left edge to the right edge of the sprite sheet. Side by side, you can see how I changed the top value to choose which row, 0 being the first row. And you can just keep on going and adding on more animation loops vertically to the sprite sheet. I'd say the stateful button is the easiest to understand web component here. All it is just visually being toggled. Its icon and CSS class, and all the actual saving logic is handled in the manager script JS. Here we have the state management, where if flip the icon, that is showing, and then in the script is where I'm actually doing the saving data, where I see the save button. I just use its getter and setter, which is set with TypeScript, type safety. And then I go through it and hit the success, and then do a set timeout. Actually, I put that in there just for fake waiting for data, but I would still put in this promise set timeout, so you can see that check mark, and then it goes back to the star icon for idle. Also, something to note is how I handle importing style sheets. I like to use a single style sheet for each web component, and I want to make sure I import them in a singleton pattern, which means that it's only imported once into the head of the document. Right here is where your Boolean style sheet added. It checks that has it already been loaded already. If not, then run this function load style sheet. There we have a little bit of environment, kind of fake environment variables, which I'll show you here in a second. And then it creates a style element and appends it to the head of the document only once. Speaking of environment variables, I have this process n.js, which would be kind of like your dot environment file, and you set your host and your development environment, which actually I'm just using the live server Ritwick plugin in VS Code, and then launching it, with the launch button right here, the go live button. So I like to use this extra layer of this file ends.js that help with like dynamically changing certain endpoints depending if I'm on the dev or the production environment, as well as like setting defaults for anything, or checking if it's a non-null value as well. It's also helpful for that. This in particular, at least the live server I'm using, uses a 127 loopback, and in your case, it might just be localhost. And you might have seen in other parts I'm using JS docs to type safety most of the stuff for right now. An example of this would be this environment file. You can see right here I've mapped out these 4 parameters for this object, but I can look into my types file and find that same file that I'm importing with the type def import, that same file. And here it is a TypeScript file, but it's really VS Code that's handling all that. So you can see here I can add another egg, wait for it to hatch while I get rid of the weeds. So I have the repo on GitHub, and I'll link it in the description. But to show you that this is a project, for people who are beginners who just want to get started, or maybe somebody who's been through NPM package hell and they're sick of frameworks and just kind of want a fresh experience where you don't have to download gigabytes of dependencies just to get a project started. So if you like the project, give it a star on GitHub, or send a pull request or fork it, or have fun with this terribly balanced game. Peace.